I don't know about you, but I've always been a kind of a obsessive person in my nature where I would just kind of get locked onto one thing, fixated on a topic, and I would just want to understand everything about it. And if you talk to me, that's all that I would be talking about. And I would just be kind of like, I don't know, I'm thinking about it all the time and wanting to learn about it and wanting to talk about it, all this kind of stuff, this kind of almost like an obsessive type personality. And I always thought that there was something maybe weird about me or something wrong with me. I couldn't understand why other people didn't care about the topic that I wanted to talk about so passionately. In my teenage years, it was emo music. Yes, I was one of those guys with the big black long fringe past the chin and playing in emo bands and just obsessing over finding new music. And then, hey, I in my 20s, I started channeling that into different things and I started learning about other things. And when I got involved with my church, I'm like, wow, this has absolutely changed my life. And I threw myself into learning all that I could about how to build the church and leadership and all this stuff for all, my whole 20s, really. It was just a season like that. And still I'm obsessed with that, to be honest, even though I'm 39 turning 40 in a few months. But I've always had this kind of obsessive nature and I thought it was weird. But what I've learned is that it can be a bit of a superpower if we apply it to the right thing. And I really think it can be like this ability to focus on something until you get some degree of mastery. And they say that it takes 10,000 hours in order to become an expert in something. And the way that you're going to get your 10,000 hours is by loving something, is by jumping into something and going down the rabbit hole and watching every YouTube video and reading every book. I love hearing the story of Mr. Beast, how as a young teenager, he discovered YouTube videos and he started creating videos. And then he all of his friends were people who created videos, and he built his whole life kind of like his whole teenage life was really just about devouring and creating YouTube videos. And he's turned that into obviously something very massive today. That obsessive nature really helped him to be able to get to the point where he could operate at a very, very, very high level. I think Michael Jordan, my favorite athlete, he's the same. I watched that recent documentary, what's it called? I can't remember. The Last Dance, there we go. I watched that documentary of that sixth title that they won, the Chicago Bulls, and just how much of a maniac Michael Jordan was. And I'm not sure if it would have been fun to be on his team, but you certainly were going to win. Now, I'm not suggesting that we take that kind of the negative side of that, but what I am saying is that there's this superpower in being able to focus on something and just practicing and getting really, really good and learning everything you can about a certain topic. And I really want to encourage you. Here's my one big idea for this video: to embrace seasons of focus. Okay, I think our life should have different seasons of focus, where for 6 months you just go down this rabbit hole, or maybe it's 3 months, or maybe like me for building the church, I'm still in a 2-decade season of focus. But the reason for that season is that you get to the point where you've added something to your skill set. Maybe you're learning about Bitcoin and you want to understand Bitcoin, and so you go down this path and then you understand what is money, and then how does inflation and government money printing impact the world economy, and then why do we need Bitcoin and all this kind of stuff. You learn about the topic, you watch all the videos, you get focused on it so that you understand it, so that if you are going to buy some Bitcoin, you at least know what you're buying. You have a thesis behind what you're investing in. So the purpose of a season of focus is to take massive progress, to make massive progress in one direction over a short amount of time. I did this when I was learning web design. Maybe I'd get a new web builder, let's say Weebly, if you know Weebly, and I would just build as many websites as I could until I got a level of competence. I think this is going to really help you to excel. You add one thing at a time. And I've mentioned in other videos, there was a season where I just devoured everything on budgeting, a season on everything about how to get out of debt, a season on everything about index investing, and then Bitcoin or whatever it is. I've had these seasons of life, and some seasons go much longer than others depending on the size of the subject. In fact, there was one time about 4 or 5 years ago where I was just getting a bit chubby, okay? All right. My kids laugh about it. We call it Fat Daddy. And my season of being Fat Daddy, where I just realized, man, I need to learn how to control my weight because, the dad bod was coming. And so I just went crazy down the path of learning all about intermittent fasting. And for probably about a year, I went down that path. And it wasn't just learning, it wasn't just watching all the YouTube videos and reading the books, but it was doing it. And I lost 20 kilos because of that season of focus. Now, I probably need to get back to that season of focus because over the years, it's slowly coming back. But I haven't lost anything of what I've learned. I can apply that right now. And even today, I will admit, it's 4 p.m. and I have not eaten breakfast or lunch because I am intermittent fasting. And I added that skill set through an obsessive season of learning about that. And not everyone understands that, but that's okay. It gets results. So a few thoughts about these seasons of focus. Number one, you can continue to build on past progress, okay? So as you start a new season of focus, you're still building on what you learned in the previous season of focus. And you can learn multiple things at once, but I don't think you can focus on 10 things at once. Maybe just 1, 2, possibly 3 areas of focus. And just because you're moving on from something because you've got a level of competence doesn't mean that you're leaving it behind. It doesn't mean that you're being indecisive or you're getting itchy feet and just moving on. I'm bored with this, so I'll leave that behind and I'll go to something else. No, instead we build on it. That becomes part of the foundation for our next season of focus. So we're not ever starting from scratch. So for me, when I had my season of focus on getting out of debt, I took that with me. And then my next season was learning how to budget my money. Actually, those seasons were kind of almost, going together hand in hand. And then the next season was learning how to invest in index funds and things like that. So we build on those seasons. You're not starting from scratch. Some people get really obsessive about something and then just completely get sick of it and move to something else. And it hasn't added any real value to their life. It was a season that was quickly forgotten. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about building a foundation for your life that you can keep going up. That's how you actually move up in life, is you got to build on foundations, not keep starting again from scratch. For me, I had a season where I kept learning about SEO and building websites. I'm not really learning a lot about those things right now. Maybe SEO a little bit. I stay up to date with the recent Google algorithm changes and things like that. But I threw myself into those topics and now I'm building on those topics and I still use those skills today. So that is important, that we're building on what we've previously learned. Recently, my focus has been about learning about how the monetary system works and how I can save money well, because in a world today, right now, where the governments are just printing money like crazy, like it's going out of fashion, and the money that we save is getting debased, I need to understand how inflation works. For whatever goals we have financially for me and my wife, for our family, for our kids, I have to understand what happens when we actually start making some finance. Then how do we keep that? How do we store that? How do we store that in a way that it's going to last, that it's not just going to be eaten away by inflation every year? So I've been learning all about that. I've been learning about alternate ways to save our money, things like saving in Bitcoin, as crazy as that may seem. These things are important, and I'm not going to study it forever, but it's my season of focus right now, along with a few other things in my life. So we build on these things. We still pour ourselves into all the other things. Like for me, I've said many times in this channel, and if you don't know my story, by the way, I'm Richard. I live here in Hong Kong, and I'm an Australian. I'm a pastor of a local church here, and my life's call is to pastor a church. I love what I do full time. That's why I talk about building side businesses. This is not my focus. These are side things that support the overall vision of our family. But as we have all of that, we're going to keep building. We're going to add little things that are going to support the overall vision of our life. And so I haven't stopped being focused on my life's call. We're just adding a few other things as well, so that it actually supports and holds up the purpose and calling that we have on our lives. I don't know what you feel called to. I don't know what you feel passionate about, but there is something that God has made you for, I believe, with all my heart. And let's build around that thing, and it's gonna work out well. Trust me. So the first part is you continue to build on our past progress. We're not leaving it behind. The second thing is you have to learn how to prioritize. Obviously, with focusing, you're prioritizing on one thing over everything else. So you have to know what your season is. What must I learn right now? And we can't upskill in everything at once. So you may be saving some things for in the future. For me in my 20s, I knew I had to focus on getting ministry skills because I wanted to do ministry for my life. And so I never even looked at finance or any of the stuff that I'm talking about right now, because I knew that wasn't my season. I'll focus on that later. I've got to get the basics down because this is what I want to do for my life. That's called prioritizing. And the most successful people that you know are all amazing at prioritizing. So what do you need to learn now? What do you need to build right now? What do you need to upskill in? What do you need to watch some YouTube videos about and start dabbling in? Otherwise, you're going to get distracted and you're going to focus on the wrong things. And I almost think that deserves a whole nother video itself, because if you want to really focus on something, sometimes you have to eliminate the distractions. It's not so much about what you're focusing on. It might be about eliminating the things that are distracting you from that goal. So you've got to be able to prioritize. Prioritization takes strategy. You have to think about it. You have to consider it. Maybe you have to pray about it. But don't go through life aimless. Prioritize, strategize. Come on, this may be new to you, but I want to encourage you. It's worth it. Just take some time. Go to Starbucks, get a coffee. Think about it. What is important to you? What can you do right now in this season to be able to prioritize on the things and obsess over the things that are going to bring the best fruit? And the last thing is you've got to kill as many distractions as you can. And I already kind of mentioned this, but one of the questions is, how do you stay focused? And oftentimes we're trying to really, get excited about that one thing that we're focused on. And that's cool, but there's a better way, is if you start eliminating the things that can distract you. Maybe you're spending too long on social media. Maybe you're spending time doing some things that are not beneficial or helpful to you. Maybe it's even something that's good, like let's say going to the gym. That's a great thing in your life, but maybe right now you need to just focus on getting that business up and off the ground. You need to get it up and running. Maybe for 6 months you need to stop going to the gym just so that business can get started, and you'll start again later. I don't know. Reduce your hobbies. I'm not saying cut your time with your family, but maybe you do need to prioritize how you spend that time. For me, I used to kind of go out early in the mornings before my work day at church started, and I wouldn't get to see my kids in the morning as they got ready for school. And I had to do that for maybe a year or two while the business was getting up and running. And you know, I didn't love that, but it was necessary. I had to kill some distractions in the morning, and no offense, my kids, I love my kids, but they're pretty big distractions. I couldn't work when they were in the house, so I had to get out, go to a cafe early in the morning, and kind of get rid of the noise so I could focus on my side business. So maybe you need to delete Netflix for a while. Maybe you need to delete some apps off your phone, or I've found even with Instagram and things like that, even if I don't want to delete it, I can put the app somewhere at the back of my phone, like in my iPhone, in a folder or something. Just make it more annoying to get to, and that little bit of friction can help me to not, you know, automatically go there every time I pick up my phone. So yes, you can do it. Kill the distractions in your life as much as possible until you get to some level of competence in that thing. You obsess over it so much that it starts producing fruit, and then you can start maybe looking at moving on to something else, and you've added that skill set to your life and you can build on it going forward. So I don't think being obsessive is bad if you obsess over the right things. Obviously, anything that's destructive, you want to get out of that. That's called addiction. You want to kick that. But obsess over the good things. Obsess over the things that's going to build your life, build your family, build your side business. And I just believe you're going to build a great side business as you stay obsessed. And don't worry if it looks a little bit strange to other people. It's worth it. Awesome. Well, hey, if you want to know a little bit more about what it feels like to sometimes be misunderstood by your loved ones as you start out your side business, check out this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.